Right, okay, so today we're going to look at direct proportion. Now this is going to be quite tricky. You need to put your positive pants on, ready for this, because it's going to be tricky. Okay, if two things are proportional, that means that as one increases, the other increases. Okay, so for example, height and weight are proportional to one another generally, because as one increases, the other one does. It might not be by, quite the same amount, but they are proportional. Okay, right, I want you to just work with me, kind of go with it, and hopefully it'll all make sense as we go through. So, in maths, mathematicians are inherently lazy, and so rather than writing these big words, x is directly proportional to, instead of that we would write a symbol for direct proportion, and the symbol for direct proportion is this little fish-like sign here. Okay, so as soon as you read something like this, x is directly proportional to t squared, I want you to write it in a mathematical way. So x is proportional to t squared. Okay? T squared, by the way, they might write as the square of t. That does not mean the square root of t, that means t squared, the square of t. T is being squared. Okay? So we're going to first of all write it with a fish. We are then going to replace the fish with an equals and a k. So we're going to say x equals k t squared. K is what we call a constant of proportionality. Now that sounds much more complicated than it is. All it actually is a number. Okay, if two things are proportional, they are increasing at the same rate. Okay, so K is going to give us that rate of increase. It's going to give us the proportion that is the constant of proportionality. Okay, this is going to be the same every time. X and T are going to change. Okay. Because k is going to be the same every time, we have to be able to calculate it. So they will always give you a value of t and a value of x so that you can calculate k. So x is 19.6, so we're going to substitute the two values that we have been given into our formula. This is our formula. Okay, so we're going to put it in. So x is 19.6, k we don't know, t is 2. So we've got k times 2 squared. 2 squared is 4, so we've got that k times 4 is 19.6. So to get k on its own, we're going to divide by 4. K is 4.9. Okay? It's asking us for an equation connecting x and t. That is because x and t can change every time, k stays the same. So our equation, you must do this step, put whatever your k is back into equation. So our equation is x equals k, which is 4.9 t squared. Now that equation is going to work for every single value of x and t. Okay? Now, if the question does not ask you to do this, you have to do it anyway. You have to do it every single time. So we have to find an equation connecting whatever two things are proportional to one another. Okay? Right, so then question B says find the value of x when t is 3. So we've got a formula. We know what k is, so we've got this formula. You can just shove in your numbers and find out what x is. So t is 3, so we've got x equals 4.9 times 3 squared. 3 squared obviously is 9. 4.9 times 9 is 44.1. So x is 44.1. Okay, get that down as an example, make sure that that's all sunk in, then we can go on to question 2. Right, question 2. M is proportional to the cube of p. M is proportional to the cube of p. So, if it doesn't say indirect or direct, we assume it is direct. We're going to do indirect in the next video. So, M is proportional to the cube of p. The proportional sign to directly proportional is a fish. So m is proportional to p cubed, the cube of p, not the cube root of p, the cube of p cubed. We replace the fish with an equals k. So m equals k, p cubed. We've been given a value of m when we have a value of p. So we've got 128 equals k times 8 cubed. You can use your calculators for this, by the way. Okay, 8 cubes is 512. So k times 512 is equal to 128. So to find k, we're going to divide by 512. So we get k equals 128 over 512. Now you can leave it as a fraction, or to put it in its simplest form. The simplest form is a quarter. You must put it back into this formula. Okay, so our formula is now m equals a quarter times p cubed. That is our formula. The question has then asked us to find what m is when p is 5. So we're going to substitute in p is 5 into here. So we've got a quarter times 5 cubed. A quarter times 125 is 31.25. If you want to leave it as 125 over 4, you absolutely can. Okay, next video, indirect proportion.